Good day everyone. In this video, we will discuss about setting up transactional replication on top of always on availability group. And the configuration that we are going to use for transactional replication would be to utilize initialize with backup instead of using an snapshot. Yeah. So let's get started. Let's first discuss about the environment that we'll be utilizing for this video. So what we have done is we have all together 6 database servers. The first 2 servers, DIS1 and DIS2, they are the remote distributors, okay, which will hold your distribution database. DIS1 is on the primary data center and DIS2 is on the secondary data center. Now you have the next 2 database servers, which are PUB1 and PUB2. PUB1 is on the primary data center and PUB2 is on the secondary data center, and these server basically hosts your user database, which will basically be having all your tables that will be accessed by your application. Yep. And sub 1 and sub 2 are your subscribers. Sub 1 is on the primary data center and sub 2 is on the secondary data center. And subscribers basically have your subscriber database, which will basically get its data from the publisher. Yeah. So as far as the normal transactional replication thing is concerned, what we do is application basically moves the data inside the publisher database. Transactional replication log reader agent basically reads the data from the publisher database and then moves on to your distribution database, which is on your remote distributor Dis1 and Dis2. Okay, and then the distribution agent, which basically reads the data from the distribution server and then moves it across to the subscriber server. So what we'll do now is I will show you guys the environment on each of these servers, and then we will take it from there. So if you look at the remote distributor, so we have 2 nodes, DIS1 and DIS2. The availability mode is asynchronous commit. So we have a user database added to the remote distributor. Same way, if you look at the publisher, you can see that you have pub1 and pub2, and the commit mode is asynchronous commit. And right now I have a database called JBSWiki, and this database will basically act as our publisher database. Okay, and then let's look at the subscriber setup. So we have this sub1 and sub2, and if you look at it, we have a dummy database here added. So now what we'll do is we will create a transactional replication on top of always an availability group, and then what we'll do is we will try setting up everything and then see if everything works fine as far as the failover and failback is concerned. So now let's start with the remote distributor. So let's configure each and everything one by one, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so now what we are going to do is I'm going to execute all these query and then get the transactional replication configured. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to use the SQL CMD mode. Yeah. So you just need to click on that query SQL CMD mode, and now what I'm going to do is on the primary distributor server, which is DIS1, I'm going to execute this query sp_add distributor. Yeah. So you need to make sure you remember this password. This password will be utilized anywhere else on this particular demo, and also if you need to add a new node to this particular setup, then you will have to use this password. Yeah. So now we have executed it on the primary distributor server. So now we are going to execute it on the secondary distributor server. Yeah. So let's execute it. And what you need to also do is after you execute every time, you just need to ensure it is getting connected to that particular SQL server. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do, now that we have configured the distributor, I'm going to create the distribution database now. Yeah, the distribution database we will have to create, and that will be done on the primary distributor server. Primary here refers to the primary replica as far as the always on availability group is concerned. Yeah, so let's click on execute. Let's wait for this to complete, and then once this is done, we will change the distribution database to full recovery model, and then we'll move further. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the distribution database recovery model from simple to full recovery model. Yep, so I'm going to execute that. Now that is completed. So now what we'll do is like, let's go to the primary distributor server here. Let's do a refresh. Let's go to the database, and then let's see if we have this distribution database. We have the distribution database. Let's click on properties, and then let's check the option here. If you can see here, the recovery model is set to full. Yeah, so we are good with that. So now what we'll do, we will go back to this, and then now let's take a backup of this distribution database, and then we will add this particular distribution database across to the availability group. Let's back up the distribution database on the primary distribution server. Let's go ahead and execute it. Okay, so the backup is completed now. What we'll do now is like just ensure the backup files are present there. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to that location where we have this backup files and ensure like we have these two files there. Yeah. So we have this distribution.bak and distribution.trn file. Yeah. So we have that. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to add this database onto the availability group. And once that is added, we will move further. So let's look at the availability group that we have there already, and let's look at the name there. So if you see here, the name of the availability group is DIS. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to rename this availability group from dist.ag to DIS. Yeah, that is what I'm going to do now. So let's rename that. Okay, it's renamed now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to first add it to this particular availability group called DIS. Yeah, so let's execute it. This is completed now. So now what we'll do is like we will execute this alter availability group grant create any database on the secondary replica of the distributor. Let's execute that. It is done now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this sp underscore add distribution db distribution. Let's create that on the secondary distributor server. So it is completed now. So now what we'll be doing is like we will be executing this add dist publisher for each of the publisher servers. That is the primary replica publisher PUB1 and secondary replica PUB2. Let's do it on the primary distributor first, and then on the secondary replica of the distributor. It's completed now. Let's look at the always on dashboard to see if the availability group looks okay and distribution database is added to the availability group. So if we see here, so we have this DIS availability group and distribution database is added fine as far as primary replica DIS1 and secondary replica DIS2 is concerned. So I think we can proceed further. Yep. So this is completed. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to connect to the primary replica for the publisher, which is pub1, and then I'm going to basically distribution AG listener will be added as the distributor on the primary replica of the publisher. Okay, so DISL is my listener name. Let's execute it. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, so if you see here, it is connecting to pub1, and we get a message like you have updated the publisher property active successfully. Let's do the same thing for secondary replica of the publisher pub2. Let's execute it. Okay, so it is completed now. So now what we'll do is like we will enable publisher property value for the JBSWiki database. Let's go ahead and do that. It's executing now. It's completed. So now what we'll do is like on the publisher server pub1, what we'll do is like we will create a publication, and let's name the publication let's say JBS Wiki Ripple, and then what we'll do now we will do is like we will add the required articles also. Okay, let's go to pub1, go to the replication folder here, and then on the local publication, let's right click, click on new publication, click on next. JBSWiki we will select, we will use transactional publication, next, and then what we'll do is like we will add the required tables. In my case, I'm going to select all the 3 tables here. Yeah, let's click on next here, and then we'll click next here. So here I'll not be selecting anything as far as snapshot is concerned, because what I'm going to do is like I'm going to utilize initialize for backup for the initialization of this transactional replication. So I'm not going to select anything here. Click on next. So now here what we'll do is like we'll give the required informations here. We will give it as run under SQL agent service account, and then that is for the log reader agent as well. So let's click on next, and then let's give the name as JBSWiki REPL. Yeah, this is the publication name that I'm going to give. So let's click on finish. Let's wait for it to complete, and then we will head on with the rest of the TSQL queries. Yeah, now it is created. Now you do a refresh here, you will be able to see the publication here. Yep, we have the publication here. Let's right click on the newly created publication, click on properties, and then let's go to this subscription option here, and let's click on cancel. Let's open it freshly here. Just right click and click on properties, and then go to the subscription option, and you have this thing called allow initialization from backup files. We need to change it to true because we are not going to use snapshot for the initial synchronization. Instead, we will be using the backup to complete the initial synchronization. So let's click on OK here. Once this is done, what we'll do now is like we will this step is completed. So now what we are going to do is like on the primary distributor, let's do an redirect to the publisher listener. Okay, so let's go ahead and then execute it. Okay, so it is completed now. So now what we need to do is like we need to connect to the listener, which is DISL, and then let's execute this particular query. Now, if you see here, I'm connected to this DISL, which is your distribution listener. So now I'm going to execute this query here. Let's wait for it to complete, and then we will be able to check if the redirection is working. So if you see here, it is now pointing to the redirected publisher, which is your PUBL, which is the publisher listener. Yeah, so everything looks good as of now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a backup of the user database JBSWiki on the publisher server. Once the backup is completed, I'm going to restore that particular backup with recovery. on the primary replica of the subscriber server. Let's go ahead and do that. The restoration is completed. Now on the secondary replica of the subscriber server, I'm going to restore the same backup with no recovery. Okay. So once the restore completes, what we'll do is like we'll go ahead and then set up the always on availability group for the JBSWiki database on the subscriber server. Yep. So the restoration is completed. Now what we'll do is like let's head on to the subscriber server here, and then go to this always on availability group, and then just right click on add database. And then you will see this JBSWiki database here. So let's click on next. Connect to the secondary replica for the subscriber, which is sub2. Once done, click on next, and then we'll use the option join only because we have restored that database with no recovery on the secondary replica. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's wait for it to complete. Once this completes, we can proceed further. Okay, it is completed now. Let's click on close. And then let's look at the availability group dashboard to ensure everything is okay. So right now I'm able to see that everything is added perfectly as far as the JBSWiki database is concerned. Let's head on to our secondary instance as well. And then on the secondary replica, let's do a refresh and then ensure like the database is looking okay. They're just an precaution. Everything looks good here as well. So we are good here. So let's head back to the query window. Now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create a subscription. Yeah. So the subscription we are using initialize with backup. So I need to change it accordingly. Let me change that. Okay, so I have made the required changes. If you see here, what I've done is like I've added the @sync type to initialize with backup. Let's start with the sp_add subscription command. Publication, I've provided the required name. So the publication is JBSWiki REPL. So I have provided that. If you see here on the publisher one, we have this JBSWiki REPL. So I have provided that name. The subscriber is listener sub L. Yep, and this is the always on listener. Destination DB is JBSWiki, and sync type is initialized with backup. Backup device type I've provided as disk, and then I've provided the place where the backup file is located. In my case, I'll put it in the REPL data. So I put it there. And then subscription type is push, and update mode is equal to read only. Yeah, and then here, if you see here, the add subscription agent publication is this particular JBSWiki REPL. Added the listener here subscriber as subscriber. Subscriber DB is JBSWiki, and then everything else is default. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to execute this particular query. Let's parse it first. So what I'm going to do, this is a known problem. So let's delete it and then let's parse it one more time and make sure everything is okay. So here you go. Let's parse it one more time. Everything looks okay. Let's execute it and let's see if it completes or errors out. Basically, you will get an error, LSN mismatch error if there is a problem. But I think everything should be okay for us. Let's wait for it to complete. So in my case, it all completed fine. I don't see any errors. Yeah, so I don't see any errors here. If I look at output window, it all looks good. I don't see any errors here. So now what I'm going to do on the secondary replica of the distributor server, I'm going to create a link server to the subscribers listener server. Okay, so it's completed. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same thing for the secondary replica of the publisher server, where I'm going to add the subscriber listener as a link server. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so it is executed now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the replication monitor and then see if everything is looking okay. Yep. So let's go to the primary replica of the publisher, which is pub1. Let's go to replication folder. Let's first look at the publication, and we are able to see the subscriber. So let's right click on it and then click on launch replication monitor. Once it is connected, what we'll do is like we will connect using our publisher listener. Yep. So let's put it as PUBL, which is our listener. And let's click on OK here. And then let's try connecting to the distributor listener. Now it is done here. Let's click on OK. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm not going to use the individual server, so I'm going to remove that, and instead I will use the listener. Okay, so everything looks okay here from the replication monitor. I don't see any issues here. Let's go to the agents. We know that the replication snapshot agent will not be utilized here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert a tracer token. Yeah, so let's try insert a tracer token and then see what happens. So publisher to distributor is done. That is from your publisher database log to your distribution database, it is done, and distributor distribution database to subscriber is also done. So what I'm seeing is like the replication is working fine here. What we'll also do is like let's try inserting some data and then see if it moves there. Okay, so we have several tables here. Let's try select star from table 1 and then see what we have. We have close to 100 rows here. Yeah, and then let's go to the subscriber server as well and then see what do we have there. Let's do a refresh. We have the JBSWiki database there, so let's go there and then try running it. So we are able to see like close to 100 rows. All looks good. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all rows here. Yeah, delete from table 1. It's a demo machine, so I'm allowed to do whatever I want. So it is deleted here. Let's see if this flows there. So right now I'm seeing all the rows there. Now it is all replicated. So replication is definitely working fine. Yep. So now what I'm going to do, I'm basically going to do a failover. Yep. And then see if everything will be working fine or not. Yeah. So let's first go to the distributor server and then let's do a failover. So one thing that you need to keep in mind is like everything is configured as asynchronous. Yep. And this one is done just for the actual DR purpose. But in my case, since I'm going to do a test failover, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the availability group, all the availability group to synchronous. And once I ensure like everything is working fine, then what I'll do is like I will change it back to asynchronous because it's a test DR, so I just don't want any kind of data loss and things like that. Yeah, so let's do that for the subscriber as well. Yeah, so let's change it to synchronous and then let's change it back to asynchronous once all the testing is done. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to first fail over the distributor server. Let's fail it over. Once the failover completes, let's head to the publisher. Yeah, so I'm failing over the distributor server now. Let's click on next. Let's click on finish. Okay, the failover is in progress. The failover is completed. Okay, so now if you see here, this one has become the secondary, and this two has become the primary replica. Yep, so everything looks good. Now let's do the same thing now on the publisher server. Yeah. Okay, this two is primary. Now let's go to pub2 and then let's try failover there. Click on failover. Okay, let's click on next. There is no data loss because we know we changed it to synchronous replica. And then let's do the failover. Let's wait for the failover to complete. Once this completes, let's head back to, let's move on to the subscriber server. Yep. So the failover is done for the publisher also. Now it's the subscriber's turn. Let's go ahead and then do the failover there as well. Click on next. No data loss, so let's click on next and then to the initiate the failover. After the failover, let's give it like 1 minute, 60 seconds or 90 seconds, and then let's look at the replication monitor. Okay, so now what we'll do, we will check the replication monitor on the publisher's new publisher primary, which is pub2. Let's look at that. Pub2 being in a different data center, it is taking much time. So what I'll do is like let's head to pub2 and then open the replication monitor here. Launch replication monitor. And then what we'll do, we'll go to the publishers, and then we don't need this pub2. Let's remove that. Yes. And then let's go to pub-l, which is your publisher listener. And then if you see here, everything seems to be okay. Let's look at the agents. And then if you look at the agents here, what I'm able to see is like we are getting the log reader agent is showing as no replicated transactions, and then the distribution agent also seems to be good. So what we'll do, let's insert a token and then see if the token passes through. Okay, the token has gone, so that means like after the failover, everything is working fine. Now what I'm going to do, let's run this select star from table 1 here and then select star from table 1. We don't have any data here, so what we'll do is like let's try deleting the table 1. We should get an error because we are connected to pub1. Yeah. So if you see here, we get an error stating like we cannot delete any data because it's read only because it's the secondary replica. Yeah. Now let's insert some data. Let's try with 1 row, and then let's insert 2 more rows. And then let's see if we are able to get that data after the failover. So 1 row has come. Let's wait. Yeah, so all the 3 rows are here. Yep, so everything seems to be working fine. Let's head back to pub2, which is our current primary. And then if you see here, you're able to see like 2 transactions are moved. So after the failover, everything seems to be okay. I don't see any problems at all. Now let's do a failback and then ensure if everything is okay one more time. Yeah. So you guys can stop it here, but I just want to failover, do a failback and then ensure everything is working fine. And then I think we should be really fine. Let's click on next. Let's click on next. And then do the failover. Okay, so the distributor failover is completed. Let's do the same thing for publisher server also. Yeah, so let's do a refresh here. So pub1 is a secondary server, so let's do a failover. Okay, so let's click on next. And then initiate the failback. So I'm going to take another 20-30 seconds and it should be done. Okay, so the failover is complete for the publisher server as well. So let's do the same thing for subscriber secondary replica here. Let's do a refresh. Okay, so the refresh is completed. Let's do the failover. Okay, let's click on next. Okay, so the failover is initiated here as well on the subscriber server. So once the failover completes, what we'll do is like we will look at the replication monitor and then ensure everything is working fine. Okay, so let's look at the replication monitor from the publisher server. Publisher 1 is your primary replica. So let's launch the replication monitor there. Then let's go to the PUBL, which is your listener. And then let's maximize it. And then if you see here, everything seems to be okay. I don't see any errors. Let's insert a tracer token. And then let's see if it passes through without any issues. So if you see here, the tracer token has passed through. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert some data. Let's do a change connection and then let's do a PUBL. Yeah, and let's change the database context to JBSWiki. Let's do the same thing for the subscriber also. Let's connect to the subscriber listener. So right now, let's connect to the JBSWiki and then execute it. If you see here, we have 3 rows right now. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do, let's run the same thing here as well. You should have 3 rows. Yes. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert another 2 rows and make it as 5 rows here. Yeah. So right now we have 5 rows. Let's look at the subscriber server and then see if 2 rows are inserted. So if you see here, the 2 rows are inserted now and everything is working fine. So what we have done in this video, we initially had an always on availability group configured. We utilized a remote distributor and then configured transactional replication. We did not use snapshot for the initial synchronization. Instead, we use an option of initialize with backup. And we configured the transactional replication and then we tried a failover and then we tried a failback. During all these operations, the replication was working fine. We checked it in the replication monitor tracer tokens and also inserted some rows and verified everything was working fine. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.